YouTube? It's your girl Rachel, and I am shockingly not only on time with this next video, but I'm also wearing makeup and looking presentable in this video, which obviously is not something that happens often because I'm lazy as heck after living in Europe, so sorry, not sorry. You know, I thought I should look presentable though if I'm talking about sororities and all that like superficial junk. You know, I probably should look a little decent myself, so here we are. I tried. You're welcome. But this week, I mean, I'm doing back-to-back sorority recruitment videos, which is something I didn't want to do and I didn't plan on doing. I thought I would give my 2 cents in the last video and just dip the fuck out, but I mean, you guys had so many questions. I mean, so many great questions that of course I'm always willing to answer. I love talking to people. I love giving thorough answers and just writing a lot. So I mean, I'm always willing to talk. If you want to DM me, if you want to comment, if you want to message me, any type of way you want to get in contact with me, I am here for you guys. But there were some questions that I think I got so many of and that I've seen so often, I thought I would just make a video about it because they're also topics that I haven't really seen covered that well in other YouTube videos. No tea, no shade to anyone out there, but I think most of the sorority recruitment videos being made are from the perspective of someone who is either going through recruitment or has been in their sorority for a year and therefore hasn't actually seen the recruitment process from that recruiter's side. And so it is a very one-sided view of sorority life and that sorority recruitment process. I think there are just some things that would be better answered by someone who has actually gone out there and has talked to the girls, has had to judge them, rank them, has had to decide who's going to be in their sorority or not. I mean, someone who has gone through that process from both sides. I'm just going to cover the questions that I think are not being answered that well, and yeah, that's what we're here to talk about today. Other than that, I will link that first video that I'm talking about that obviously I'm getting all these questions from in the link below, as well as all those other videos that I recommend you watch if you just are curious about recruitment or are worrying or anything else like that. So yeah, anyways, let's get into today's video. So some questions that I've been getting that I never really personally thought were big issues or things to be worried about were conversation. What you should talk about, is it nerve-wracking, how do you keep a conversation going, what are wrong answers, all that kind of stuff. I think I'm going to talk about first kind of the encouraging, you know, reassuring aspect of this whole conversation process. Ultimately, it is up to us as the recruiter to keep your conversation going, to keep you engaged as a PNM, because what we say to you, the conversation that we have, the tone, the mood, all that stuff of our conversation with you ultimately reflects back on our house. We also want to be able to, you know, judge you accurately. We want to be able to get as much information from you as possible, to learn as much detail, to kind of see if you are a good fit. This being said though, you are going to have an awkward conversation at least, I'm going to say twice during the entire recruitment process. Like, you are going to be hitting walls with people where you are literally pulling questions out of them, like, please talk to me, like, I want to know more about you, like, I want to feel included in this conversation. You are going to feel times where you are just sitting there like, what the hell is this bitch saying? It's just, you are going to have those weird conversations. So if you're trying to wonder how to avoid them completely, it's not going to happen. You are 100% going to have one of those moments where you're like, whoa, this house is weird, or like, this girl cannot talk to save her life. You know, you're going to have those moments, and that's good that you're having these moments because it lets you know that that house is not for you. And I'm telling you this from experience because my dream house when I went through recruitment, the house that, you know, because I went through as a sophomore, I already had my biases, my stereotypes, all that stuff. I thought I knew what house was good for me, you know? All that stuff when you're a sophomore and you think you're hot shit. But yeah, I went through recruitment and there was this one house that I thought I wanted, that I would be perfect in, and I got to the recruitment process, I started talking to the girls, and I was hitting walls every time. I am 100% extroverted according to my Myers-Briggs personality test. Like, I am out there, I love talking to people, I love putting myself in weird social situations, and man was I put in a weird social situation because every girl that came to bump and talk to me, you know, in the transition or in the round, oh my god, I was just pulling questions out of these girls. I was like, so, you're from Coronado, like, do you like it there? Is there anything else you want to tell me other than that? Like, do you want to tell me anything at all? You know, it just made me feel so awkward, like I was someone they didn't want to talk to, you know, or just that I was awkward because the conversation was going so bad, and like, that's not the case, you know? It's just clearly those girls were not meant for you, you know? It's just, that's not your house. You need to get that out of your mind real quick because I had that experience with, you know, what I thought was my dream house, it helped me pick the house that I ended up joining, you know, my current sorority, because the conversation there just went so well, it was flowing, we really talked about everything, and so I was able to compare those two houses and be like, well, I obviously wasn't having a conversation here, so I was not meant for this house, and I'm not meant for every house, but this one is clearly my match, you know? It gives you that comparison, and so it's not necessarily bad to have an awkward conversation. Like, I want to let you know right now, do not feel discouraged if you had a bad day, do not feel discouraged if one of the houses just, like, isn't working out, because that's normal, that's going to happen, and it lets you know that that's just not for you. Like, you need to get the fuck out of there right now, drop their ass, because it's not going to work out. You're going to feel sad if you join that house later on. Now, this being said, there are going to be some questions that you want to prepare yourself for. I like to think of sorority recruitment kind of as a job interview, and that there are those stereotypical questions that you are going going to get asked, that you want to have a good question too, because if not, you're going to be, you know, thinking later, it's going to be 10 p.m., you're going to be reflecting back on your day, and you're going to be like, shit, I should have answered that. You know, that would have been a better, more thorough answer. So I'm going to give you as many questions possible that I can think of off the top of my head, from basic to hard, that I have really asked everyone that I've talked to during recruitment, so that you have time to really think about an answer for them, because you're probably going to get asked these at least once, or if not multiple times. So the first ones are pretty basic. You are guaranteed to be asked this on your first day, at your first house, at every house. Maybe even into the second day you're going to be asked this, because it is the general opening question. You know, they're going to ask your name, they're going to ask what your major is, if you have any minors, what dorm you're living in, you have any roommates, are you on meal plan maybe, that's a maybe one, but they may ask that one, what city you're from, if so, what city you're from, you know, maybe they're from the same area, what high school did you go to, oh, do you do any like cheerleading in high school, what kind of activities did you do, was it a hard drive to get here, how long did it take you to move in, do you see your parents often? Really just kind of those basic questions about transitioning in as a freshman, or transitioning into that new living space and into this college life. They're going to ask all those types of questions, and those are pretty basic questions. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard to answer, like, where are you from? But yeah, those are the easy ones that you are going to get so tired of hearing after a while, because every girl that you talk to is going to ask you that, guaranteed. Every house that you go to is going to ask you that, guaranteed, and that's just the first day kind of question. Like, that's what you get asked. I don't know, it's just what you answer. So it's going to happen, you're going to get annoyed, but you know, by the end, you'll probably have this answer verbatim, like, I'm poli-sci major, I'm a French minor, I'm an interdisciplinary studies minor because I'm an honors program. Now, the more specific questions that I cannot necessarily guarantee they're going to be asking you, but I know I have asked a lot personally, and if you go to my university, you're probably going to get asked this a lot, is what are you passionate about? Because if someone is really passionate about, I don't know, maybe like fitness, health, then they might be, you know, like a physical therapist in the future, or they might be like a nutritional, like sciences or something major, you know, it can kind of lead you into that conversation, it can give you more things to talk about, and also it can just lead you into that basic answer that, you know, you were probably hoping to get out of them, but you didn't want to just ask them the straight up, what is your major? Because, you know, everyone's heard that question a million of times. So yeah, I mean, we want to ask questions that are going to possibly give us longer answers, more detailed answers, but we also want to hear about the content of the person. But ultimately, as the days go by and there are less girls in each house, things start to get more serious and it kind of narrows down. We want to get more into your personality, your character, what you are about, and so we are going to ask those more in-depth questions. So, you know, you may want to start thinking now about what your passions are, where you try and see yourself in 5 years, what is your ultimate career end goal. For us personally, we want to stick to themes usually, so since our themes, personally for my sorority recruitment, are Leadership Day, Philanthropy Day, Sisterhood Day, and then that Preference Night, which is kind of a vague category, we like to stick to those themes as well. Like on Leadership Day, we'll ask, you know, what were you a part of in high school? Did you have any leadership opportunities? How do you plan on getting involved in college other than Greek life? Because fun fact, we do have this 100% participation thing going on in Panhellenic, so if you are in a sorority, you also have to be a part of an organization that's not Greek related, because we want to also be involved in campus. We don't want to just be exclusive in our Greek community, we want to be, you know, involved all over the place and really be campus involved. For like our Philanthropy Day, for instance, we're going to ask you maybe what have you done to volunteer in the past, and since you had to have a certain volunteer hours, at least in my school district, we had to have a certain number of volunteer hours to graduate. You can always talk about that. You can talk about things you've done in the past, or maybe target groups that you want to get involved in. This is where you can start honestly tailoring your questions. If you have a certain sorority in mind, you think you're growing closer toward a certain sorority, or honestly if you're already biased and you just really want this one sorority really bad, you can look at what their national philanthropy is, and maybe this is when you start kind of putting that in there. You can really kind of start tailoring your questions towards that sorority's goals, that sorority's philanthropy, you know, maybe their foundational aspects, all that stuff that you can actually find online. And then on that Sisterhood Day, we are going to get more personal, I want to say. We're going to ask more about your family, about your friend group back at home, about the connections you made on campus already, and, you know, how many siblings do you have? Has it been hard being away from them? All that kind of stuff to really kind of get you in that emotional aspect and kind of just figure out more about your background, how much family means to you, where your values are, just all that kind of stuff. Really think about what your passions are, really think about why you want to be in that sorority or why you're going Greek. That's also another one. We like to throw that question on people like, oh, why are you going through recruitment? Like, what do you expect to get out of the Greek process, and what do you expect to get out of joining a sorority? And a lot of times people give that same generic answer of like, oh, you know, I wanted a sisterhood, and you're like, okay. You want to give an answer that's going to really like spark in their mind like, oh, like that matches great with our, you know, values and our foundation and, you know, what we're about. So yeah, life hacks right there. Think about that and start drafting your answers now, because you're going to be giving them a lot. Lastly, I am going to give you some conversation starters, conversation tips. During our polish week, of course, because you want to keep the conversation going, they actually give us some tips on, you know, starting conversation and stuff as well. And one thing that I've really taken with me is this idea of a pocket question, always having a pocket question. And, you know, to be kind of really representative of it, during our recruitment week, they actually give us physical cards that are pocket questions. You can literally pull it out of your back pocket and like read the card and the question. But I'm not going to get that literal with you guys. You always want to have a pocket question, however, in your back pocket in case the conversation is going south, in case it starts getting awkward, you run out of things to say, your recruiter's not being the friendliest, because that is possibly going to happen to you, as much as I hope it doesn't. You want to pull out this kind of pocket question, something that stands you out, something that will start kind of a weird conversation, you know, something other than like, oh, so what's your major? Or, oh, so where did you come from? You know, something that's not really throwing the question back, but something that could take the conversation just in a completely new direction where you're kind of vibing on a level that you didn't think you could, you know. And if the person answers the question right, then you kind of know that you may like this sorority because, you know, you pulled out this random ass question and people are still answering it and you're having a good conversation based off this topic. So my personal pocket question, because last year I was about to study abroad and this year I just got back from studying abroad, so I'm probably going to keep that same question, is if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go? And I think that really sparks a lot of conversation there, because of course they're going to tell you where they want to go, and then you can ask why, you know, like, oh, well, why did you choose India? Or why do you want to go to France? Or, you know, why are you trying to avoid Europe in your travels, you know? It's going to give you a big answer that's going to hopefully get you to know more about them, because I think traveling says a lot about someone. Other things that I've asked is like, if you could only eat 3 foods for the rest of your life, what would they be? I'm trying to think. If you were on a deserted island, what would you bring with you? You can choose 2 things. If you had 3 wishes, what would you choose? You know, just all those random types of things that are situational questions, are kind of out there. They're probably never going to happen. And, you know, just to see what, you know, what people would bring, what they value, what is important to them. And, you know, just to have a weird conversation, because how many other people are going to have a conversation about, you know, what 3 foods can they eat for the rest of their life, you know? It really stands you out in that aspect. And when they're trying to think back later, during their voting, it helps them out, because they're like, that was the girl I talked about food with. Right, okay, her name's Becca. Let's vote for her. There are certain things that you want to talk about, maybe not talk about, you know, you want to show as much of your personality and your content and your values, goals, your just kind of career, future, where you see yourself long term. You want to share as much of that personal stuff with your recruiter as you can, because it stands you out. It shows them that you are, you know, a person of content, that you are planning to go places, and that you could really contribute something to the sorority because of the goals you have in the future and, you know, where you see yourself long term. So you really want to think in that aspect, like, if I was getting hired at a job, that's how I like to come into this as, is like, if I was getting hired at a job, like, what would I say, how would I want to be impressive, and then I apply this to sorority recruitment. I think it really can go both ways. If you want to have a full-on conversation, if you have specific questions you want to ask me, go ahead and DM me or message me, whatever. We can have that whole long-ass text conversation, because I do type a lot, so sorry about it. But if you just have a simple question about this video, I mean, feel free to comment that below. I can totally answer that, and of course it's public, so other people can see the answer as well, in case it might be helpful or relevant to them. Other than that, you know, if you liked this video, subscribe, thumbs up, all that other stuff. Comment if it was helpful to you. That'd be kind of cool to see if I'm getting any feedback. And then also, I realized that I don't have a lot of my social media published on here, just because Twitter and Snapchat are very personal things to me, so follow me on Instagram. That's kind of the only promotional thing I'm going to say. Most of my sorority life is very SRAT looking and very publicized on Instagram, so if you're curious what my actual sorority experience looks like, or what my college experiences look like, then I totally encourage you to at least check out my Instagram. Like, you don't have to follow me or anything, like, you can just check it out, or like I said, you're going to have to go there to DM me anyways, so yeah. Promotional stuff over. Other than that, I will catch you next week if I'm on time. Yeah, I'm going to be doing Polish Week next week, so I'll get back to you if there's a video. But I will catch you hopefully next week, and see you on the flip side.